No, the next topic we had here.
Oh,
This is the one I'm telling you, Columbo is something over here, man. Because really, we talked about this, and it's kind of deep. And I really want you guys who are listening to pay attention. There's a lot of importance in this, and in the beginning, you may not think it's that important. But as we drill down into this, I want you to pay attention. I would like all the viewers to really pay attention to what goes on, um, because there is levels of corruption. And when I say corruption, certain levels of corruption not only affect or impact the person, but the people around that person as well. The organizations that they represent, like we just finished talking about, two reporters. They represented organizations, news organizations, and in this particular story, we're going to be talking about the WWE and some of the things that took place in the WWE
mhm.
concerning CTE, drug abuse, prostitution, and alcoholism, domestic violence. All of these things were taking place under that organization with individuals who perished. Some of them were killed. Some of them were, produced. They also unlifed other people too
Mm.
because of the condition they were in. I'm trying to watch my words, y'all. That's why I'm saying it that way because this thing is funny. You pick up whatever. You don't want to pick it up, it won't pick it up. But anyway, you get what I'm saying here. The world of the WWE and those who were involved. And there's particular stories that stand out. Like my man right here, the Black Columbus wearing that shirt. He showed the shirt, man. Show the shirt.
Oh,
Show
yeah.
that. Yeah. See how you wearing that shirt, Tony Atlas. And the one story we're talking about features Tony Atlas. Him
Yes.
being the prime witness to a murder.
Mm.
Keep it real
Yeah.
now. That took place, that was covered up, and no one went to jail for it to this day. Let me give it to the Black Columbo to let us to break it down. He's really enthralled in the story, and I knew about it as well. But what it does, it uncovers the dark side of popularity, um, maybe
Yeah.
things that come, the wealth that came with the WWE and Vince McMahon and all of those entities and peoples involved. Looks like a very brilliant institution. But inside
Yep.
of that institution, there was a lot of pain. There was a lot of sorrow, a lot of wreckage to individuals who represented that platform, the WWE. So we're gonna let the Black Columbo talk to us about it.
All right. So we're going to be talking about the murder of Bruiser Brody.
Bruiser Brody.
And this is a story that has been passed around. And Tink and I were talking earlier, and I got a couple more guys. I'm gonna squeeze in there and kind of touch on their stories because I mean, this is just touching one level of many things. And then, guys, there's a female wrestler, Diva, and she's got the trippiest story, and that directly has to deal with the WWE and with Vince McMahon. Because, Puerto Rico was where the Bruiser Brody thing happened, and it was kind of like really underneath Carlos Colon's wrestling company. So, they had some of the Vince McMahon wrestlers there, but this one right here has to do directly with an event that was ran by the WWE that had WWE wrestlers and that was pushed by, Vince because Vince was running it. So that one, which I didn't tell Tank about yet, but when I get to it, he's gonna go when I tell him
Right,
what I'm
right.
about to say. Okay, so let's get started. So Bruiser Brody, legendary wrestler, hardcore man, swung a chain around, rough and tough.
Mhm.
Went to Puerto Rico with a very younger Tony Atlas. Uh, you know, Black Atlas, Tony Atlas, Mr. America, Tony Atlas, his many names.
Right.
Tag team partner of Rocky Johnson and SD Jones, Special Delivery Jones, and Tommy Wildfire Rich.
Tommy Wildfire.
So yeah, Tommy Wildfire Rich. So
Okay.
he went to Puerto Rico. The Iron Sheik was there. Brody, Tony Atlas, Dutch Mantel, Afonseca, the Wild Samoans were there. Savio Vega was there. Abdullah the Butcher, because he was the guy that actually worked the deal to get them to Puerto Rico, was Abdullah the Butcher.
Abdullah, yep.
No, Abdullah the Butcher, crazy dude. So they ended up in Puerto Rico, and they were wrestling in Puerto Rico underneath the Carlos Colon was the main contact out there, an Invader. So they were the guys really pushing it, and they were doing shows, what they normally do at wrestling shows out there. But what happened was Tony Atlas is, if you know anything about him, he's also a very talented artist. So he was drawing a picture,
right?
And he had pictures of wrestlers and different things that he had drawn, and he was really good friends with Bruiser Brody. And Bruiser Brody saw the picture and said, "Hey, Tony, that's real good." He said, "How much would it be if you could draw a picture of my son? This picture right here of my son. Could you draw that?" And he said, "Yeah, I'll just do it for you." He said, "You don't owe me anything. I'll just sketch it for you." He's like, "I'll let you know when I got it done, but you'll have it done before we, head back, so you can give it to your son." And he said, "Man, it really means a lot." He's like, "I'm looking forward to seeing my son." He really loved his son and was really looking forward to getting back to hanging out with his son. So Tony's drawn this picture, and he said, Carlos Colon, an Invader, they said they came over to Bruiser Brody and said, "Hey, brother, can we talk to you?" And he said, "Yeah, for sure." So they go over to the shower area and start talking, kind of like a little private conversation. But then all of a sudden, Tony Atlas hears, "Oh, I can't do that." As well as Tony does it, because Tony just, he tells stories, just
right.
grand stories, man. He's, oh. And he just kept hearing it. And he said, "What is that?" And he looks over and he sees, Brody's bleeding, and he's stabbed several times, and he's holding his intestines in his hand, and the picture of his son in the other hand. And he's like, "Brother, I'm hurt." And he looks and he goes, "Oh my gosh." And he says, "Don't let them hurt me." So he said, no, nobody's going to mess it. So he goes over there and he tells him, he said, "You come over here." And Tony Atlas was not just Mr. Olympia built and tall. He was, this, he was also collegiate wrestler, very good collegiate wrestler, very good at shooting, very good. So he told him, he said, "If you come over here, I'm going to knock your head clean off." He's like, "You're not doing anything." So he had to call an ambulance, but in Puerto Rico, somebody getting stabbed, they don't take it seriously. So when the ambulance came, they were kind of shifty and whatever else about it. And they said, no, you need to see my friend. You're going to put him on the stretcher. And so, he had to pick up Brody and carry him and put him on the stretcher. And they said, "Okay, fine, we'll take him. We'll put him on the stretcher." And he grabbed another young man that was another wrestler that spoke Spanish, because Tony didn't speak Spanish. He's like, "You're going to translate everything for me." He's like, "I'm not going anywhere." And Tony reached over and actually picked him up and carried him in the ambulance. And he said, "You're going to translate for me, and I'm going to talk, so that way we can figure this whole thing out." So they go to the hospital, and they see the doctor. Doctor's like, "Okay, yeah, fine, knife stabbing, blah, blah." And he's like, no, this is real bad. So Tony has to pick up the doctor and bring him over there and grab him and show him, "Look." And his intestines and everything. He's like, "Oh, this is real bad." He's like, "We're gonna have to get to work on this. We're really gonna take care of your friend. We got to look at this, because it's bad. This is real bad. This isn't just a knife. This is they really went in and did some damage here." And these guys had come down to the hospital when Tony wasn't there as well, and we're going to get into that side, but real quick, so Tony's in there, he's talking to him, Brody's going pale, he's thinking he's dying. They take him to surgery, they're able to stabilize him, work it out, your friend's going to be fine. So Tony's not worried about it. He's going to, go to his hotel, and kind of do that. But then he gets word that he dies. And it was said that Carlos Colon and Invader and whoever else had come down there to the hospital. So it looks like they definitely, did something. He just didn't die of complications from what they thought was good and it later on changed. It was made very clear that Colon and the bunch went down there and actually did something to him. So he had to tell all the other guys about what was going on. A lot of guys, they didn't want to get involved. Nobody wanted to help. Everybody wanted to stay back. But Tony and Dutch Mantell were willing to go to court to testify on what was going on. Alpha and Sika had no problem doing it. They just didn't see it, but they were there to help in any way. And they protected Tony, so you go to the police station, report, let him know what's going on. But the weird thing about the whole thing, it seemed like the police may have been on some of that, they might have been
in Puerto Rico too. This was happening in Puerto Rico.
Right. So they may have been involved, were not involved, so to say, but they were trying to kind of cover it under the rug a little bit. As Tony said, they never called him or Dutch for the court date. They were supposed to call them and they were supposed to have them come out and testify and all that, but nobody ever did. The whole situation disappeared and Brody died. And Carlos Colon and Invader were murderers. That was the thing. They were straight up murderers that did that. Right? So Tony goes back to his hotel, and he said people come and buy his hotel trying to find him and stuff like that because Abdullah had a meeting with all the wrestlers kind of like what to do. Tony didn't, I don't think he went to the meeting if I remember correctly. And it's a good thing that he didn't because then they would have known where he was going, where he was, what he was wearing, so they could find him. So Tony's kind of hiding out. He has his gun too. So he's protecting. Savio Vega, another wrestler, great guy, comes in and tells Tony, he's like, look, dude, we got to pack up your stuff. You got to get out of these guys are trying to kill you. They called him too. They were like, hey, brother, where you been? We've been looking for you. And he's like, don't start that stuff with me. You know where I'm at. And you guys, you murdered my friend. So I'm not trying to hang around you guys. He's like, I heard you talked. And he's like, whatever. He's like, what you guys did was wrong. So Savio Vega had to get him out of there, rush him to the airport, get a flight, get him out of Puerto Rico to hide. And that's the quick version of the Bruiser Brody story of what happened to Bruiser Brody, unfortunately, and I did see the Dark Side of Wrestling documentary they did last year, no, a couple of years ago. I think it's been about 2 years now. And they showed his wife, Bruiser Brody's wife, and his son that had the picture,
Right.
And man, you want to talk about some sad times, they were just distraught.
Man, when I heard that story, brother, man, I had saw the documentary, a documentary about the death of Bruiser Brody, which is like you said, to the fans who may not know who that is, he was a somewhat of an iconic star.
Yeah.
Under WWE banner, right? Wrestling? Was it under WWE or was it another?
He had wrestled with World Class underneath Fritz von Erich a lot more. So correct. He had done in different promotions.
Not WWE, but he just was a pro wrestler. I don't know if he ever got on stage at WWE, but
I can't remember if he did.
Yeah, but whatever it may be, it's a compelling story when I heard it. I saw the documentary. It seemed like they were going to Puerto Rico, and I think Tony Atlas was the main character, telling the story.
Yes.
How they would go over to Puerto Rico and do wrestling, pick up some gigs there, do wrestling, and that was a place for them to go where they were there was no transparency as to what was taking place over there in Puerto Rico. So they would make their money and they would get their drugs and they would get their stuff and everything from that particular area. It may not have been the only place, but when they were out there, they were able to do whatever. So
I take that back. He did wrestle, but when he did wrestle, Vince Sr. was still alive. So Vince McMahon is a junior. Yeah. So his father, when it was the WWF, he wrestled for Vince Sr. Yeah. Right. So, and then when Vince came along, it switched to the WWF. And then later on WWE, because the world, what is it? Conservation Group was also named WWF. Okay. And there was a dispute with the name years later. But yeah, he wrestled for Vince Sr., Vince's father.
Right.
And he also wrestled for Fitz von Erich at World Class. I knew that. He wrestled for Vince Senior, Florida Wrestling, All Pro Japan, and American Association Wrestling. So AWA.
Okay.
So he wrestled for them. So yeah.
He's
So
wrestled under different umbrellas out there. The more popular
mhm.
platforms of wrestling at that time. He's wrestled
Yeah.
with. But it seems
Yeah.
like the wrestlers would go to Puerto Rico uh,
Yes.
to entertain there as well, to wrestle and make monies there. And I think in a documentary it was said uh, by one of the wrestlers, or maybe Tony Atlas, or one of the wrestlers who were featured in the documentary, that was like a safe haven for them to go and do whatever they wanted to do. Um, wasn't that regulated? And so, like you saw, I'm not sure exactly what went on with Bruiser Brody as to the way Drew just uh gave you a summation of what took place with the killing of Bruiser Brody, because he was really unalived. Or I guess you got to say it that way. He was unalived um, by some of his peers who were
Right.
wrestlers as well. The bigger question is what I'm getting to and driving home to is that what goes on in some of these big wrestling networks where they have a lot of people out doing different things in different countries, in different places. How are they really being monitored and what's really going on? Because there's a long list, and you know the Black Colombo got a long list, excuse me, of athletes who were wrestlers who all pretty much suffered similar discomforts or disorders concerning addiction, concerning violence, concerning alcoholism, concerning a lot of different different type of lewd behaviors.
Right.
And on top of that, there are athletes who suffer multiple concussions, while entertaining. Although some of it may have been scripted, these are still athletes. Some of the things that you have to see have to be made to look real. So somebody they're actually taking blows. It may be
Yeah.
scripted to a degree, but they're actually taking blows. So on top of the physical damage to the brain, right? You have drugs on top of that. You have alcohol on top of that. You have all these other different things on top of the trauma physically that's taking place. Could this have led to this, to some of the things that we have seen with these wrestlers? We see,
Absolutely.
and Drew, I'm gonna give it back to Drew here in a minute, but we've seen in wrestling the athletes, right, do some crazy things. Look like they've gone out of their mind. And there's one particular wrestler, I'm pretty sure Drew's going to talk about it, Ben Wise, who I'm talking about, who wound up killing his family and himself. And I think they determined that CTE, after they did examine his brain after he was dead, that CTE was part of the reason for his abstract behavior and for doing what he did, taking the life of his family and then himself. So I mean, there's a lot of things. Was drugs part of it? Was steroid? Because steroids, when I say drugs, that's inclusive to steroid use, which was big. It was big in professional wrestling. So
Yeah.
all these things create a perfect storm of destruction. So what do you think? And give us a little bit more information on it, brother Drew.